Introverts in particular, people who don't talk too much, people who reserve their own opinions and keep them inside, they're a little interesting to me. I've been thinking about the parallels between how people can either grow to become that way over time or how they are that way from the get-go. I'd say more often than not, they, at some point in their lives earlier on, were a lot more open, were a lot more talkative. But as time has gone on, due to what's happened, they've chosen that staying silent is the better option. That isn't always the case, but I feel that it's a peculiar line to look at and a peculiar line to see play out in this modern day, in this modern age. Originally, I started thinking about how some people and some kids growing up, I was one of these kids, and it will sound annoying. They love tattle-tailing in a way. I don't necessarily think that it comes from a state of what someone is doing or is saying is bad, because that's true. What someone is doing or saying is bad. What someone is doing or saying can be dangerous. More often than not, what someone is saying or doing, I feel that it's better to know of what they're doing than keeping it on the low. I'm not saying every time do it, but sometimes that works out. And I feel that that overall perception and that action, that active choice that people make when they're kids, comes from some part of their upbringing. Maybe they don't feel like they are being told as often as they can at home that what they're doing is good, that what they're doing is great, and that they have support, and that they feel that what that they are doing is useful. And I think the more I think about that, and I think about that correlation, it's a little sad, though not too sad, how I'm sure some of these kids who were the biggest tattle-tellers, or tattle-tailers, I don't know the grammar specifically. I didn't think about that for this. I'd say there's one of two paths that you can go down with this. You can either A, continue to be that way for the rest of your life. I feel like a solid amount actually don't go down that path. They go down this different path. I didn't know if I wanted to say 1A or 1B. There's one path and another path. They go down this other path, another path, if you would, where after they've done this before, and they've done it time and time again, and they've dealt with the somewhat repercussions of their actions, they can decide that it's not worth it. They can decide that what they're doing is not necessary. I think in some cases, this necessary notion can also progress to other parts of their life. And this isn't just for someone who is a tattle-teller at one point. I think I'll just say tattle-teller for easier purposes, in my opinion. I'd say there are a lot of people who grow up in life, and this is how we all are. I don't want to say it's human nature, but in some cases it could be. We all have our own beliefs. We all have our own opinions. we all want to talk about them. We all have our subjects that if someone is able to bring it up, we could talk about it forever. But those subjects might not fit any and everywhere that we're at. And when you go through school, middle school, high school, college, the different levels, the different areas, a very strange game can happen as we move on through this portion of our life. And this is through school in general. I say middle school up through high school and even college because at that point our brains are growing. I know for my brain is still growing. It's not going to be done for another few years. We're done with our brains growing once we get out of college, more often than not. The overall situations that we deal with throughout these parts of our life is not so much how everyone is friendly with everyone. And not everyone will be friendly with everyone, to say the least. We find ourselves more often than not in groups, in cliques, in different levels of the social standing. You could be the popular kid, you could be the kid that no one really thinks of or hangs out with. More often than not, and this is how I felt about myself, you could be somewhere in between. People can know who you are, but you're not the first name that comes to mind. I'd say that's the case for a fair amount of us. We might not see it that way. But we can at times try to find our way into these different groups, try and make ourselves feel better about ourselves. This can be taken under by our own decisions. This can be something that our parents try to do and that they want to make us more like them. They want to mold us in a little bit of a way more like them. And with that progression of life, we often find that we can hide some of our best thoughts, our best opinions, and our best natures from other people because we're paranoid. I would say yes, paranoid, but scared is the main word of what they think of us. We might be scared of what some person might say if we say something about what we're passionate about. We bring up what we're passionate about. We bring up something that's been on our mind for a while. We bring up something we've noticed for some time that a lot of us have seen happen or that a lot of us know about that maybe someone else is hiding. But because of that anxiety and because we don't know what will happen, because we can be scared of what could happen, not what can and what will, we keep it inside. I've been thinking about this connection for a little bit these last few days, and I find it funny on the opposite end, where now I'm someone who has graduated fully from school. This December will mark 3 years since I officially graduated from college. And especially how a lot of us are living at home and hanging out with a lot of the same people. I found myself, when I go out and about with my friends at night, you find people that are with other people. I say high school just generally because that's kind of how we can think of it, but more often than not, you were going up through school with the same people. You can find that some people are still friendly with people from high school, and then you could find other people who are friends with others that you wouldn't have even considered were friends and could be friends back when you last knew them, back when you last saw them. That actually happened to me recently over the weekend. I went out with my friends. We met up with a few of our other friends at a bar, and there was another guy who was there who I hadn't actually seen in many years. He still looked the same. I didn't talk with him too much, but I saw him with these other two people that we were meeting up with. I wouldn't have even connected the dots that these guys would be hanging out together on a night out, you know, close to 10 years in the future from when I saw them in high school. And I'm not saying they were in different social standings. Maybe they were. But I never would have connected the dots. I feel like we, as people, the older we get, and this is something with life, we come to learn and come to know that the best way of finding who we can be with, finding our people, finding our tribe, if you want to call it, and finding friends, is to ditch that anxiety of hiding what we want to say and what we could say, what we feel like we need to say. The thing is, that comes with age. As we grow older, we know this fact more. It's not something that necessarily we think of when we're in high school. I'd say more often than not, when we go off to college, we expand and grow a little bit in that regard, because more often than not, we're not at school with the same people that we went and grew up going to school with. You know, in my specific case, I had one person who went to, and I grew up going to school with, who went to the same college I went to. She was a year ahead of me. We were both in the same school. We didn't really cross paths too much, but we were there, and we kind of knew that we were there. And I think when it's more like that as compared to every single person, and this is the case, I'm sure, for any high school, you have the local schools that everyone goes to. I'd say that's better to just have one or two, maybe even a few people, depending on the size of your school. You might be in a massive school, and you might be the only person going to this massive school. That could be a win for you. That could be how you're able to learn to express yourself freely without holding yourself back in chains that are there because you put them on. As compared to going somewhere where there is everyone, and every person you know that you went to school with is also now here in college with you. I'd say more often than not, a reminder that we need for ourselves is going off of that. As time goes by, and as we decide whether or not and when we can open up. We will open up. You don't have to be and decide to go from being the tattleteller to not doing anything to being quiet your whole life. Say what you want to say. More often than not, honesty and authenticity is what people will remember you for. Don't be scared to show that authenticity. Don't be scared to be honest. there are times where that can be what someone needs to hear. And the only way we can find out who we are and further find our place in the world is by honing that authenticity and that honesty. And at the end of the day, saying what we want to say without mass judgment, without holding back. That's what we need more of in the world. You can start today, you can start tomorrow, you can start next week, but I would start choosing that authenticity and that honest path as soon as you can, because in the end, whether you go up and down, whether you're in the thick of it or whether you're in a thin patch of life, that authenticity will keep you alive. And that's all we can ask for at the end of the day.
Bonus content.
I didn't put the fan on and I am sweating through this shirt. I glanced off a few times because I just used Raid on a wasp and I waterboarded it, essentially. I was scared that it was somehow going to come back from the dead because it was still moving at some points, even though I had sprayed it for 10 plus seconds. What was I saying? It's the summer. They're out anyways. Say what you want to say. More often than not, that's the best choice and the best path for you to go forth. Bye now.